we're going to keep going. We're talking about conversion therapy today and why it needs to matter to spiritual therapists. It is not a thing of the past. And for some reason, Sequoia and I have had the experience that people talk about it like it's still a thing of the past. And yet it's not. And it's a thing that we need to be concerned about.
I was trying to figure out like what's my proximity to this conversation. Like, why do I care about this? You know, like why is this important? Like there are these like parallel conversations, especially in like religious spaces where, you know, folks are getting these messages, specifically like Black queer people are getting these messages that there's a part of themselves that they need to hate or change or, you know, like suppress, you know, and I feel like that's harmful, you know, that's violent. And I know what that feels like, you know, to be in spaces where you're getting messages that there's a part of yourself that you need to hate, suppress, so on and so forth, you know, be something different. And so that's the first like proximity kind of piece. I feel like the other piece is you know, like what I posted on our story, which is just like I I don't I'm not in school right now. You know, but I wonder what it's like for like QT BIPOC social workers to be in classes or, you know, just see this clear like misalignment with ethics for a profession that they've spent money on, taking loans out, you know, and there's a clear misalignment in like the ethics that this profession has versus like what the school is doing or what like NASW, you know, is doing and saying. So like that's what I was thinking about initially. So yeah, what about for you?
Yeah, I actually love that question about proximity because my first initial reaction was my heart. Like I was thinking about youth and young people. And I know part of it is because I was in education for so long. Like I'm always thinking about young people and how a lot of a lot of these practices under conversion therapy are abusive, are harmful, are devastating, and has long-term impacts for the people that are being like are under this treatment, this weird fake pseudo treatments, not like, you know, y'all know this ain't really any kind of practice or ethical. And then the kind of other piece that it landed on me too around, yeah, I think that experience of feeling like there's a part of you that isn't welcomed, and it feels, I kind of get that feeling when I'm in certain like spiritual spaces. I get that feeling when I'm in some of these therapist groups, and just the feeling of like, oh, who I am as a queer person or femme, or like it's not welcomed, and that I'm asked to show up a particular way so that I'm digestible to people, or that I have to like kind of just like hide that part. And I think too, I was thinking a lot of the layers of conversion therapy. Like we talk about conversion therapy in the practice, but I'm also thinking about the ways that we're trying to convert queer folks and trans folks all the time in like unofficial ways that don't fall under the CT category. So those are the things that I was sort of thinking about. So yeah, thinking about therapists
You
who
want to
are
talk
hella,
some more about
oh,
that? Like what do you
yeah,
mean?
yeah. Like I was thinking about therapists who are transphobic and queerphobic and are doing therapy with clients and trying to make them feel like who they are is a problem. And that's a form of conversion therapy we don't talk about. Like, yeah, I hear it a lot in my practice where I meet QT BIPOC and they're like, oh, I went to see a spiritual therapist and they told me that the reason I'm gay is because of my trauma. I hear that a lot. That is conversion therapy. It might not be the textbook, the way that people are talking about it, but that's what lands on me. I'm thinking about a lot of folks in my community who've been harmed by therapists who are trying to get them to see their queerness as a problem, or that it's based on some type of trauma, or that it's not who they are, like they chose to be queer and that's why they're having these problems. Like that's its own form of conversion therapy. And I think we need to really talk about it and make space to challenge that, because there are people who are like, I don't participate in conversion therapy, but you do when you're harming LGBTQ folks by by not being supported and affirming and doing the work.
Yeah.
Um,
Being
yeah,
delivered. you
But
know.
yeah, because you a believer. You a
Yeah,
believer.
yeah,
And
being
your
delivered
mission, right. Your
from
mission is to
the spirit of homosexuality, you
talk
know.
about it. Talk about it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. And I want to say something that might be a little,
Spicy.
yeah. I I understand from a lot of different levels, and this is going back to your point about you think about youth. I understand why there are so many initiatives to support queer youth, especially me being a Black identified body and the terror that I know Black queer youth experience in their homes. I feel like there is not enough resources, spaces for people our age, like millennials, elder millennials, who have internalized homophobia and transphobia,
Mm,
like people that have grown up in those spaces where it wasn't okay for them to be who they are, and now they might be queer or, you know,
mm,
identify as trans or something, but are still like they display toxic masculinity, you know, or like I said, like this internalized homophobia, or like queer people that are transphobic. Like,
mm.
what what about that? You know, like yes to you, yes to like everything, all the initiatives, but what about that?
No, that's real. That is, I mean, it's funny. I think the youth piece comes from my experience as an educator and as a parent.
Sure.
But you're
Mm-hmm.
absolutely right. Like there's always this way too that we kind of throw adults away. like like there are like adults, there are us. Like we need the support too. We need the help of unlearning and healing and recovering from the conversion therapy that we got in our family systems, in our schools, in our I think the thing about conversion therapy that I appreciate about the Trevor Project is that they're like, y'all acting like it's only in these ways it's happening. Like a lot of these
Mm-hmm.
conversion therapists are our peers, our colleagues. They're getting their licensure. They're going in field placements. They're actually starting practices with the intent to convert, to convert queer and trans folks. Or to, I mean, even the idea of conversion is powerful to me because I think it's really a practice of self-hate. Like it's really just, a colonial, like to me, it's indoctrination. Like it's yeah, it's a indoctrination. But yeah, you're absolutely like, what about us? And what about our safety? I I don't I don't know of any, unless some of y'all know too who are here with us. Let us know in the comments. But I don't know of any spaces for that, like that kind of level of support. I don't know of them.
Mm-mm. And I, back to your point about conversion therapy and the different ways that that can look and self-hate, I feel like there is this piece about this social aspect where I feel like it's almost embedded in like our culture, like aspects of conversion therapy. There's this, I think her name is like Jackie Perry. I think that's her name. She's a Black woman who's a pastor and a minister, whatever the word is. And she was queer at one point, and then now her sermons are all about like releasing the spirit of homosexuality, and it's like her sermon is conversion therapy, it's
Yes.
conversion, it's reparative
Yep.
therapy, and so like that is a part of the things that she's talking about are things that all of us have heard in different church spaces, and it's like a part of religious culture, you know mm, mm,
Oh, okay. And I want to go to Jackie Perry or whatever because okay. What I want to say though, because I think when we're talking about conversion therapy? Yes, there are institutions that uphold conversion therapy. There are retreats and trainings. Yes, like we know those exist, y'all. But if y'all know us, we're trying to offer an important intersectional lens, because a lot of the times we talk about conversion therapy as if it's those institutions that exist where people are getting sent to those practices. But what we're holding is like, no, it's happening everywhere. Conversion therapy is happening everywhere. And we can't act like it's this thing that happens in an institution where there's like a pastoral counselor and it's happening at the church and they're going to camp. Yes, that's happening, but it's also happening in other like really insidious ways. And Jackie Perry and those born again Christians who were gay and now they've been saved and they're no longer gay.
They've been delivered.
The believers. Those people are also practicing a form of conversion therapy, especially when we're talking about QTBIPOC Black folks, Black and brown folks who don't have access to those retreats that are very expensive, by the way. Like those things are not, and some of them are, and they're covered by, and some places are covered by insurance. I went down a rabbit hole because Pennsylvania is one of the biggest conversion therapy places, and I live in Pennsylvania, and some of them are covered by insurance, y'all. And this idea of it being secret is not secret. It's actually open. They call it
very much
open.
in your face.
Yeah.
Very much in your face.
This idea of it happening in secret is not true. It's very open. But yeah, this little insidious way that conversion therapy happens from these deliberate folks. And Jackie's interesting too, because she's built this whole brand where she's like married to this partner. And even their conversations about sex and sexuality are very like giving me, oh baby, you still queer. You in denial. Like you is in denial. We see it.
Listen, we ain't gonna even get into that right now. Okay.
The denial.
We ain't gonna even get into that.
I know y'all not ready for that conversation, but yes, people like, and then these white churches bring her to these talks to like, this is the example of a delivered woman. And she's talking to these white women about how she was saved and how she's no longer gay. I mean, that is conversion therapy, y'all. That is definitely conversion therapy.
It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart, especially when folks start again, like on TikTok and all these other. I've seen this. I follow this really successful person, hairstylist, and every few weeks he identifies as bisexual, and every few weeks he'll like post something about, please deliver me from this spirit of homosexuality. And it just, I don't know, and a good majority of the people that, because he's a hairstylist, predominantly Black women clients, and all in the comments, it's like, God is going to save you. He'll do it. And I'm like, this is not, I'm like, this is not like, it's not, to me, this is not Christianity. It's just completely like, yes, you need to be something different than you are.
Right. Yeah. And that what you are is wrong. And yes, you will be saved by it.
Yeah.
And this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
And then those covert conversion therapy practices are happening in like right before us, right before our purview. And we see it on social media. We see it on, actually, I want to come back to these therapists that are licensed doing conversion therapy.
Yeah.
I was very surprised by that. I don't know why, even though I knew it intuitively. Y'all can share, go in our stories, but also our previous posts. Like there are over 1,600 therapists that are actually licensed offering conversion therapy. And thinking about how a lot of those are spiritual therapists. They're faith-based, not always Christian, apparently in my research, they don't identify as Christian, but it's mostly faith-based Christian spiritual therapists who are doing conversion therapy. And yes, a lot of them are also clergy and minister, and like, the clergy folks, but a lot of them are licensed therapists, social workers, LMFTs, psychologists, licensed professional counselors. I'm just curious what you think about that. Like, does that surprise you, or does it?
It doesn't surprise me. It made me think about this. Maybe this was like 2 years ago. One of the big, again, in one of these Facebook groups, and this Alaska therapist like clinician group. It must have been Pride Month, or maybe it was Social Work Month, or maybe like Mental Health Awareness Month or something like that. I talked about conversion therapy, and that there isn't any like state policies against conversion therapy in the state of Alaska, but there are counties, it's either counties or cities that have like laws against it in Alaska. And there was just so many therapists comments about how they know people, know therapists that practice conversion therapy in certain counties and cities in Alaska. And I'm like, okay, have y'all reported them? Oh, I never thought to report them. Why not? You'll report me.
Mm, honey, hunty. Let's talk
You
about it.
know, so it's irritating, it's frustrating.
Wait,
I was thinking
can you say
about
why they would report you? Because that's a really good point. I don't want to move away from that.
for various education credits, you know, these programs at these social work departments where in Christian universities, you know, where
Mm-hmm.
um there are these conversations about you know, reparative therapy or acceptance of LGBTQIA plus identities and things like that. And I had posted on my page about this school. I think it's in Pennsylvania.
I
This
think, yeah, I
Christian
think I've. Hmm.
university that has a social work program, and CSWE's policy about inclusion, they didn't align with it because of queer and trans identities. And then the program decided, of course the PR response was that they had low enrollment, you know, and funding
Hmm.
and things like that was the reason that it closed. But you know, they also talked about a letter that the department wrote related to CSWE's policy, and that they like stated that they weren't going to follow, you know, it was against their like Christian values related to queer and trans identities. And then in the article it also talked about like these different instances and incidents of queer and trans students that were in the social work program, and things that had happened in like classrooms on campus, you know, that were very harmful. And so, you know, it's just like that is just interesting to me that these programs can be accredited, folks can get CEUs in these types of interventions. Like, what's that about?
Yeah, and I think to your point, and we can be. I've been reported before for standing my like around my political values, but people like us could be reported, but not folks who are doing biblical therapy or Christian
Mm-hmm.
counseling. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think what I struggle with too around the conversation about conversion therapy is that if we have so many licensed practitioners practicing conversion therapy, where do you think they're getting these licenses from? Where do you think they're getting their trainings from?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, maybe not on paper. We don't see the curricula in like these graduate training programs, but it's there. It could be a hidden curriculum for sure. We know it's a hidden curriculum because we live in a anti-LGBTQ, anti-black, anti-indigenous world, right? Anti-femme world. Like we live in the world, but the fact that there's so many clinicians that have that have a license to practice and can just open up a practice to participate in this harmful that has clearly we already know there's evidence, like people talk about it's not real, it's a pseudo
Mm-hmm.
counseling method, and yet it's being practiced in most states. And I think what's happening too, what I'm noticing is that there are states that are trying to ban the practice, but it doesn't stop counties from continuing to, like you said, continuing to have these providers doing conversion therapy.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I think there's ways that I just wish as a profession, like what is it about, okay, you don't want to report a therapist who's definitely causing a client harm. I'm not saying that I'm for like carceral and like reporting people, but that culture is in our profession, and we're quick to report black folks. I've been reported twice for things that I still don't even know why. I think it was like an intake I did twice, and the person didn't like that I was letting them know that, I don't know, but it definitely felt racialized. And yet when we're challenging providers who are causing harm, people are not calling them out or calling them in. Yeah.
I wanna go back to something that you said about the trainings and curriculums. I had pulled this $15 trainer from the North American Association of Christians in Social Work, and their training was ethical social work practice with LGBT clients. And I just want to read what the learning objectives are. So the learning objectives are: describe the conflict and complementary of social work values and Christian values, apply social work values to work intervention with the LGBT population, articulate the opportunities and challenges in being dual citizens in the world. Then at the bottom, they give you a way to, there's a grievance procedure where you can complain about aspects of the training, and the process to do that. In the description, it says scripture and evidence-based informed interventions will be considered in the ethical integration of Christian faith and social work practice. Like, okay.
Y'all, we can't stress enough that we have to be really critical, skeptical, and have an intersectional lens about this. And this idea that conversion therapy is only happening there in certain places. Like I actually had somebody tell me, I'm not worried about conversion therapy. And I live in a city in Pennsylvania, and yet I live in one of the largest places that practice conversion therapy. It's like these assumptions we make about what conversion therapy is based on these kind of outdated stereotypes of like, like Christians and like homophobia. Like we talk about Christian conversion therapy as if it's an old school practice that doesn't happen anymore. And what we're encouraging y'all, or like asking y'all to hold, is that it actually is happening, just maybe not in the way that we've been taught to think about it. There are modern ways now that this stuff is like a hidden curriculum, and then it's also like a very open curriculum. And we see that happening in the way social media, right? Like these platforms for these born again, delivered Christians who used to be gay and are not gay anymore, who have these platforms like Jackie Perry, who I think is very interesting. But then I think we're seeing it too in our groups, in these therapist Facebook groups, these therapists who are calling themselves believers and are acting like they can really be there for their clients if they believe that homophobia and being like that, and they really believe in homophobia, that it's a transphobia, homophobia. And I'm struggling with that. I don't know. No, Sway. No.
What angers me about this conversation is that in these trainings, the way that they approach LGBTQ clients is from a disingenuous place. So, this whole like challenges and compliments of Christian values and social work values. No, you need to talk about how Christian and evangelical values, it's a Christian supremacy mindset, and that everybody does not have to believe in the shit that you believe in. Yep. That's it. And that's my issue with this kind of stuff. It's not about, like in this article I found on Social Work Today's website, where they talk about, it's called Evolving Education, Christian Beliefs and Sexual Orientation in the Classroom. One of the paragraph starts off by saying, according to this professor, many of his students who identify as Christian have shied away from anti-LGBTQ teachings more typically affiliated with conservative denominations. Regardless of where they fall in the religious spectrum, students benefit from understanding the privilege tied to Christianity and that they're not alone balancing their faith against their duty as social workers. No. No. It's the Christian supremacy. Stop it.
And also, if we really want to go there as social workers, it violates the code of ethics.
This is what I'm saying.
It's a huge violation.
It is a clear misalignment.
It's a clear misalignment. It's unethical.
It's extremely unethical. I completely agree with you. And I absolutely agree with you.
I just don't trust you. I don't believe you. You need more people. I don't believe you. I don't feel like they don't.
This is not the same conversation as, like, I remember when I was teaching I think it was like a one-on-one introduction to social work class. And we got to this section where we talked about when your values are different from a client base that you might be servicing, and we got into some really good conversations. And, a lot of the times the examples in these social work books, they want to talk about sex workers, and use that as like, I don't know, the marker or the place where they know that there's going to be an issue, and I mean, I agree. And also, it's just like, that's not the only place. Like, you can say Black people, you can say queer people, you can say people with disabilities. Like, people have biases related to those communities too. I digress.
Yeah, but
But
Christian supremacy is protected. We never get to challenge. Go ahead. Keep on, Frank. Keep on.
I know, I mean, but this is what I'm saying, right? Like, people want to say that, like, servicing queer clients is the same as like, or like having to negotiate that with yourself is the same as queer clients as it is as sex worker. Somebody, if you have sex worker clients, and I don't, maybe this is like controversial a little bit or a little spicy. I don't feel that that's the same, because I feel like people can put that in a box of, well, this is just the way this person works, has to makes their money, as opposed to, this is who this person is, meaning queer or trans. Like, I don't know, maybe
Right.
that's not the right way to look at that, but
I think you're onto something. I mean, it really is heartbreaking, and I can't even imagine, but like, you go to somebody with the intent that you're going to feel safe, seen, and heard, and that the dignity of who you are, that your worth is going to be valued, that all parts of you are valued. I don't know if I can see somebody who believes that I shouldn't exist as a queer person. I just don't, the math don't math. Like, that doesn't make to me any sense. There's no way that's safe. The same way that I wouldn't see a white therapist who doesn't believe in my human dignity. Like, and it's interesting too, this is where I've struggled, like in BIPOC spaces that, got the queer and transphobia flavor on 100.
mm-hmm.
Like, I struggle with the, oh, you my people, but I just don't mess with your queerness. Like, that's just who I am too. Like, you can't, bifurcate me or act like, oh, you fam because you Black, but oh, but like, that's not.
Well, and that's how I feel in a lot of Black women's spaces.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
That's very
there's
true.
no room for me to be queer in those
Yep.
spaces, and it's really, it's hard.
Yeah,
It's
it's very
super
hard.
hard. It's super hard.
It's so hard. Yeah, that's a really good point. I still struggle with that, and I don't.
So I've been going to this confronting racial justice conference at, I think it's with the University of Wisconsin School of Social Work or something, and it was last Friday, and then the last one was tomorrow, Friday, tomorrow. And I don't understand, like, it's quite a few sessions, and none of the sessions are specifically on like queer and trans identity. And I'm like, how are we still having these conferences, and like, there's nothing specifically about queer and trans people, especially during this climate right now?
Well, I have to add too. I feel like that in spiritual spaces, like, I kind of struggle when people are like, oh, decolonize this and like re-indigenize, which I'm all about, and yet we don't talk about how we have to queer decolonizing stuff. Like, how do we queer it? Because I don't know if you still am I part of this too? Like, what is, you know what I mean? Like, I feel that in like spaces that are committed to being progressive,
Mm-hmm.
and yet they still leave out queer and trans folks. Or that or even leaving out moms. I feel that too. I feel like there's not a lot of room for Black parents. Like, I mean, that's a different conversation, but it's still in this way that we're not intersectional.
Mm-hmm.
We're just not. That's what we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about. We're talking about, like, the intersectional lens is always missing. How can you have an entire conference and not include, I mean, just, you're right. And it's alarming.
Just one session, at least one. Like, maybe I can't go to that one, but I want to see it on the thing.
Right. Give it to me on this on the
You know,
agenda. Like,
but it's the same way where like even I think about like our flyers. That's why like when we do our flyers, we have pronouns. You still be going to these conferences, they don't even have the pronouns of the people on the flyer, on the program, nothing. Like y'all can't just at least do that.
I really feel like as if, we're calling ourselves spiritual therapists and we are, committed to a practice that is about decolonizing and unlearning. We got to talk about how part of like, we have to continue to talk about how our profession is complicit in supremacy and like deep colonial harm, right? Like that's true. And that also means we have to look at ourselves and think about the ways that we perpetuate, harmful practices like conversion therapy. Um, and yeah, it might not look the way that we've been taught. Like every time I say conversion therapy, I think of the 90s. Like I think about those camp retreats. And that's
Hmm.
by design, y'all. That's why it's still
Hmm.
being secret. It's in
Hmm.
it's underground because they don't want us to remember that it exists and it's still
And
happening.
you know that they made a horror movie with Kevin Bacon called They Them that's based on that, right? Conversion camp in the 90s.
Oh, I didn't know.
Uh-huh. It's called They Them and Kevin Bacon is in it. He like the head camp counselor.
Wow. That's
Hmm.
funny because Kevin Bacon's from Philly, like huge, like his dad is like instrumental to the architecture in Philly, which is weird, whole different conversation. And then yet we live in Pennsylvania. Like I'm calling it the capital of conversion therapy now.
It's
Like,
wild.
hello, y'all. We need to
It's
own this.
wild.
We need to
It's
own this.
wild.
But you're
Yeah.
right. Like we still talk about conversion therapy. I think of the 90s camps, like those summer camps that I
Yeah.
actually knew somebody who did a conversion therapy, I think in college. It was heartbreaking, but it was
Hmm.
like a summer camp they would go to. Every summer they would go to camp. And it was literally about just indoctrination. And there was some like verbal, it was mostly verbal, but it was also like they were hazing them. It was like
Yeah. I
hazing.
can
They
see
were
that
straight up hazing them.
for sure. I can
But
see
that's
that.
that's where my brain goes because it's so hidden and invisible that it's leading us to believe that it's still not happening. And a lot of us are still spiritual therapists, y'all. We need to wake up. Like this is
Yeah.
not okay.
Yeah.
If you have some friends that are believers, you need to challenge them and talk to them about their conversion therapy practices because they're doing it, baby. They're doing it.
You
They might not
know,
think they are, but they're doing it.
and I feel like, one of the like social work approaches that I always censor is like systems thinking, and when folks watch this and they're like, well, what does this have to do? What do these conversations have to do with conversion therapy? I feel like I look at it like a pie, like conversion therapy is one slice of a pie. Another slice of a pie is the dismantling of gender affirming care. Another slice of the pie is, all the anti-trans bills. Another slice of the pie is like bathroom bills. Another slice is like these sports bills related to being non-inclusive, So
Mm,
it's like conversion therapy is a part of all of this,
I, I love that.
and so, yeah, I mean, I think when social workers or folks from other like, um, you know, uh, professions look at this, it's like you got to think about that this systemic aspect to all of these pieces of the ways that the queer and trans community is being like broken down, and this is one piece of it.
Oh my gosh, thank you for bringing it like together, right? Like looking at it through a systems lens. This was what we're doing, but yeah, putting it together and that it's all intentional and by design,
Hmm.
right? Like these bans on gender affirming care, these bans on actually, and we're seeing it like providers are actually like surrendering that practice, like not doing those practices anymore, even if they are in a state that is still supporting gender affirming care. Insurance companies are pretty much like threatening them. Like we're seeing it in every level, policy, government, business, and that means I would argue that means conversion therapy is going to continue to thrive because of this.
Hmm.
Like we're gonna see a rise in conversion therapy practitioners. Right.
That's all I got for now. I just that was just a
Right.
lot, and it's wild to again like talk about it from these different perspectives, like the social aspect, the spiritual aspect, community, communal, collective, aspect, the professional aspect. This was a very intersectional conversation, um, as
I
always.
know when you get the two of us together, y'all. Like We go and also, yeah, Sequoia gave us the pie to remember the pie. Like we're talking about systemic oppression, and we need to care because these are high stakes right now. This is violent. Like all these policies are violent. This is high
It's wild
stakes.
out here. It's wild.
Cool.
Well,
Well, thank you for joining us. If y'all got questions, thoughts, or musings, put it in the comment. We love to hear comment box. We'd love to hear from you. And yeah, we'll see you soon.